All right, it is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to open this special meeting of Moose Lake City Council, public hearing, and to sign in, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, first of all, thanks everyone for coming tonight. We really appreciate that. This is what we're hoping for, so we have a large input and hopefully a diverse input to help us make the decision that we're going to have to make. So appreciate you coming. Thank you. To start with, I'm going to just kind of go over the rules of order that the city operates on, just so that everyone knows what will be expected tonight. We do use the Robert Rules of Order. That's how all the city meetings are held by. The sign-in sheet, hope everyone did sign in. And we will be calling people in the order that you signed in. With that, you must be recognized to speak. In other words, we'll call the person up to give their opinion or discussion or questions, and we expect everyone else to allow them to speak, not to interrupt them. If you have a question or if you have a comment and you're not in the list to speak, raise your hand. I will recognize some, but you have to be recognized to speak. That's part of the Robert Rules, so we appreciate that if you would please follow that. We ask you not interrupt the people that are at the podium, just so that the meeting flows well and they can get their opinion or questions answered. We appreciate that very much. The public hearing is for the citizens of Moose Lake, the taxpayers, of business owners, anyone that owns property and pays taxes and they live in a town. So those are the people that we are going to ask to speak tonight. That's the input that we're asking for. And those are the people that will be recognized. All others, I know there's others here that are not citizens or taxpayers or do not run a business in Moose Lake. If you have an opinion you want to express to us, we ask that you please call the city office, email the city office, or come in and talk to the city office. We appreciate it if you please follow that. That way it gives the citizens of Moose Lake a chance here to express their opinion and have their question answered. Also, so this flows along, there are quite a few people here. In the process that we've used in the past, and I'm going to stick with it, we do use this during our regular city council meeting, to please keep your comments or questions to 3 minutes when you come to the podium. We have a lot of people. If we do 3 people, that's for 3 minutes. I mean, for each person, you're talking about 20 people in an hour. Time will go quick, and that we will get as many people as possible to express their opinion. If it goes into 2 hours, we hope to get everybody that wants to speak a chance to speak. Also, this is not a debate. It is a public hearing to hear your input. The council will not respond like in a debate manner. They'll answer questions, and we want to keep it that way. The debate actually, the big discussion will happen at the time of voting of which direction to go. That's when the council will go through that process of making a decision and giving their opinions and questioning each other. I know in past public hearings, I've had several of them here through the years. This is my 20th year as mayor, so I've been through a number of them. And if there are any personal attacks that happen, I will halt them immediately. And if the person does not stop, we will ask them to leave. This is just the process of normal Robert rules of operation, and that's what we follow. Also, a little information, the city budget has been passed. We do have a budget for the police department, no matter what direction that the city approves, the council. We do have the funds for it. We have, and that budget was passed in December. This is not, the reason we're doing this is due diligence, not because the city isn't funded. We have a good reserve. I think the last in my memory, we have a 9-month reserve, so the city is in great financial condition. And in our budget, we do have projects scheduled and normal operation for the year. But the council wants to do their due diligence because of rising cost of the department. Last year, we were budgeted at was it 650,000 area? And to do the same department with 5 officers and the admin staff, 24/7 coverage, in 1 year it rose to over 900,000. There's many reasons that happened. The bottom line is that that's where it is. So we knew that we needed to do due diligence when it arrived that large. It is such an important department that we realized just to make changes quickly or make cuts or whatever does not do justice to the community. Whatever change we make, we want to make sure that the community has a process in place and has a venue where they can speak publicly one way or the other. That definitely will help the council in what direction to go. So remember, this is a budget item. It is just a large increase, and we want to do due diligence for the taxpayers. And when I say city, I'm not talking about the office or the employees here. I'm talking about all the citizens of Moose Lake. They're the real city. That's the city of Moose Lake. It's just semantics. I want to make sure everybody understands that. We are looking for your input and to be judicial with your tax dollars. Just an idea on talking about tax dollars. A 1% tax increase that the council passes brings in about $14,254. So if you look to generate, let's say, $100,000 for any one department, and it could be any department, you're talking about between a 7 and 8% tax increase on every single piece of property. That's why it is so important that this decision is made in a well thought out manner. And we look at all the different options and do our due diligence with it. If you're talking, I would say over, let's say 200,000, you're talking about a 14-15% tax increase. That's a huge jump for any household business. It's huge. We are a very, very small tax base. We're at between a 29 and 30% of the city is taxable. About 70% is not taxable. Half the property in the city is owned by the state of Minnesota across the lake with their 2 facilities. And we're adding the school district, the hospital complex, I should say now, the churches and the city parks. It puts us at between 29 and 30% taxable. And that's a very small tax base. Let's see, I think we have covered it all. Just to kind of go over those so you know how our operation is. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the city administrator for a little introduction of the process. Pardon? Oh, technical item we have to do, we have to approve the agenda. To the city council, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Do I have a second? Second. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Good evening. For those that I have not had the pleasure of engaging with, my name is Alyssa Owens. I am the city administrator for the city of Moose Lake. I stand before you today filled with gratitude and appreciation for the vibrant, engaged community we as city staff and officials are privileged to serve. It is truly an honor to witness the dedication and passion that each of you bring to the table, ensuring that our city continues to thrive and prosper. Today we gather as active participants in a crucial decision-making process. This will shape the future of law enforcement services in this community. In that, let us remember that the heart of this community lies in its people. The diverse perspectives, experiences, and insights collectively form the foundation upon which we build a safer and more secure future. My role this evening is not just administrative. It is a commitment to facilitating a fair and inclusive process, ensuring that your voice is heard and your opinion is valued. Our community engagement is a testament to the strength of our democracy and the power of local government. I encourage you to express your thoughts openly, for it is through this dialogue that we find the best path forward. As taxpayers, your insight is not only welcomed, it is essential. Let us approach the public hearing with a spirit of collaboration and mutual respect, acknowledging that the decisions ahead will ripple through the fabric of this community. Thank you for your commitment and your passion and your invaluable contributions to this important discussion. I look forward to a constructive and enlightening dialogue as we collectively work towards the betterment of the city of Moose Lake. Thank you.
I think the next item is the discussion on the presentation on the 2 proposals. One proposal that the city passed in a budget and a proposal from Carleton County.
So with this slide, I'd like to take a moment to provide additional details surrounding the history of the department's budget and where we are currently. Here on the slide is some historical data on the Moose Lake Police Department budget. This data ranges from 2015 to current, and even the 2024 preliminary budget figure of $894,748. This was an increase of 28% over 2023, which is what initiated this assessment process. In recent years, city staff and officials have recognized the department's budget pattern of increases. There's some examples of corrective action that have taken place prior to this process. Consideration of a police district, a working chief dynamic, scheduling modifications, use of part-time police officers, budget modifications, specifically the 2024 squad car purchase was delayed, and new hiring and retention strategies. So all of these metrics have come to fruition and have been worked through prior to where we are at today. So the 2024 preliminary budget figure was $894,748. This unveiled that 87% of the city of Moose Lake's property tax levy in totality would be allocated to the police department if no budget modifications occurred. This would leave the city with the remaining 13% of the total property tax levy to support 15 other general fund departments. In addition, the city has $254,033 of general fund debt service obligation in 2024. Local government aid would be relied upon to fund the remaining balance of the 15 general fund departments, as well as the city's general fund debt service obligation. So the city council engaged in assessment process, looking at scheduling, staffing, budget, health insurance, and other contributing factors. This analysis led to the assessment of 3 different options for operating the Moose Lake Police Department. Option 1 was with a police chief, 4 full-time officers, and a part-time administrative staff. That is the figure that was shared with the preliminary budget assessment. Option 2 was a police chief, 3 full-time officers, and a part-time admin, and that was $791,298. And option 3 is a police chief, 2 full-time officers, a part-time admin, and that option is budgeted for $687,850. Option 3, after analysis, was selected for the operating model for the Moose Lake Police Department in 2024. As Mayor Shaw mentioned, the budget was passed in December with the $687,850 budget for the Moose Lake Police Department. It is funded at this time. The intent of this slide is to provide visibility to all general fund department budgets. I'd like to highlight that even with the selection of option 3, the police department will be the highest funded general fund department in 2024 for the city of Moose Lake. Public safety is important and it is prioritized by the city council. You may have also noticed the absence of some other city departments on that slide. So enterprise funds such as water, sewer, liquor, motor vehicle, these are not part of the general fund. There's been discussion in the community about the transfer of funds between the two, or the use of general fund monies for other infrastructure projects and other funds. And it simply does not work like that. The intent of the enterprise funds are to be self-sufficient. So let's take a look at a breakdown of option 3. So as mentioned previously, there's 1 police chief, 2 police officers, and a part-time admin staff. The operating budget itself is $567,850. Now with that, we have a duty, disability, health insurance obligation budget that will remain in place regardless of what option that city council selects. That budget is $120,000 for 2024. In addition, throughout this process, the council's been challenged to look at other costs that are associated with operating the department that might not be sitting within that department's budget. So for example, what you see on the screen is a list of additional costs that are true operating costs of the city police department, not included in the figure above. So for example, there's other miscellaneous costs. These are essentially contingency funds that are required for staffing the department in 2024. There are legal costs. So we took a 3-year average of police department related legal costs, and that figure is $22,000 annually. And we looked at workers' comp premium. Now legal costs and workers' comp premium are currently a part of the general fund, but within a different department. So we're pulling those figures out and then adding them into the cost of operation with assessment of true operating cost. The workers' comp premium, we took a 3-year average. The number that you see on the slide, the $67,400, that is with the experience modification factor associated with it. So that is the increased amount in addition to our premium we are paying on an annual basis based on claims that we have. And then it is also important to look at revenues. So our revenues and our expenditures are completely separated within our general fund budget. And the police state aid, fingerprinting activities, forfeitures, towing, things of that nature provide a little revenue back to the general fund. Those are not specifically identified to the police department because they can't be, but they are a part of the factor. So we're adding back in $46,500 back into the equation just to make sure we account for revenue generated by the department. The total cost As far as operation, for this particular option is $792,750. In addition, the work that council has done has presented a mock schedule like you can see on the screen. It is a post-board requirement that a police department has a police chief. With that, the chief would work 40 hours a week and 8 hours a day. Now this particular schedule shows that it's Monday through Friday. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's an 8-hour day, 5 days a week. That would leave 2 open shifts and not full coverage of the 12-hour shifts that we normally work on within the department for the other officers. Again, this shows coverage for the nighttime. So with that, we would have, as it currently sits, 2 alternating nighttime officers. They work 12-hour shifts, 4 on, 3 off. That essentially provides coverage for the nighttime shifts. Now with that being said, it's really important that we address that this is a mock schedule. It does not reflect open shifts for things like paid leave, sick time, things of that nature. Even with the coverage displayed in this mock schedule, that doesn't mean that those shifts will always be covered. I just want to make sure we're all aware of that. So now we'll take a look at the Carleton County Sheriff's Office breakdown. So the City Council's due diligence with the taxpayer in mind led to the engagement with the Carleton County Sheriff's Office. The city requested that the Sheriff's Office provide information and a proposal for subcontracting for law enforcement services in the city. This proposal is for 4 deputies who are dedicated to the city of Moose Lake. As we break down this, we're looking at a subcontracting proposal amount of $631,220. Again, this is for 4 deputies and a clerical. Through these contract discussions, a police state aid credit of $25,000 was established. A phone fiber copier credit of $4,500 was established. And then a one-time vehicle and equipment credit of $57,000 was established. In addition, the county, upon request, has communicated that there are other services that the city of Moose Lake would have access to within the proposal. These services do not have they're negotiated as part of the proposal and do not have extra monies attached to them. These are things like training costs, overtime, shift differential, evidence room management, investigations, court-related overtime, supervision, and a city council liaison. In its totality, the Carleton County Sheriff's Office proposal is $544,720. With that being said, we will still have a duty disability health insurance budget of $120,000. Adding that back in, this option of law enforcement service for the city would cost $664,720. There's a mock schedule provided for this particular policing option. It does display that all shifts are covered because the deputies also work 12-hour shifts. So with 4 deputies, theoretically, you would have coverage day and night. Now, it's just as important to highlight with this particular option, this does not reflect open shifts for paid leave, sick leave, etc. So not every shift will be covered, as in the last scenario, but the mock schedule essentially provides that. Here's another view of the 2 policing options that the City Council is considering side by side. So you can see the scheduling differences, you can see the number of officers versus the number of deputies, and the totals associated with such. I think it's important that I highlight that the health insurance budget, the duty disability health insurance budget, is included in both options, the City of Moose Lake Police Department and the Carleton County Sheriff's Office proposal as well. So this concludes the presentation portion.
Thank you, Administrator. Before I go on to the open discussion. The county sheriff is here. Kelly, did you see any discrepancies or anything you want to add to the presentation?
Not at this time. I'll be available for questions as they arise, so I'm
Thank
sure
you.
there will be some.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now, the public hearing, this is a discussion for the public. Taylor, you have the list. So I think we need first a motion. Yes. And first we need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Would you read the first name on the list?
Absolutely, and if I don't pronounce your name correctly, please feel free to correct me. I have, is it Dale Heaton?
Hi, my name is Dale Heaton, for those of you who don't know me. A little history on myself. I was a state trooper for 30 years, and following that, I joined the Moose Lake Police Department, of which I was a member of for many years. Of the last 11, I was chief. And during that time, to start with, I'd like to say I've known Kelly, our sheriff, since she was 18 years old. I have very high regard for her, as well as the rest of the department. All those years I was associated with them, we had nothing but good relations back and forth. It's been a while since I've been out of the loop, but I suspect it's still the same, at least I hope it is. But having said that, my purpose of being here this evening is to give my 2 cents worth on why I think that we should retain our own police department. Moose Lake's had a police department since back in the 1930s. As a matter of fact, I personally have met every one of those officers since that time. That tells you how old I am. But as far as Art Root, who was back in the 30s, but anyway, they had a one-man department for quite a long time, and then went to a 2-man, then to a 3-man. And when I was chief, we had a 4-man. And obviously you had gaps in the schedule. We had people on call, but it pretty much worked. But there are things you can do to fill those gaps. By part-timers, not totally fill them, but you can designate a couple nights a week. This is assuming you have a 3-man department I'm talking about. You can designate a couple nights a week where you're gonna have somebody out all night during burger hours, which is generally like 1 to 4 in the morning. And, change it up every week. One time it's Tuesday, Friday, the next time it's Thursday and Monday. So the burglars never know when you're out there, when you're not. But it all boils down to, you can only afford to do what you can afford to do, which is part of the whole country, we spend more than we make. Now, there's certain things that we have to have, and that's police protection. The thing I like about a local department, and I fear that losing it, is that hometown touch that I like to call it, that you get from your local people, and it's derived from people that have been there a long time, and have offered a good service. People trust you, you're fair with them, and it's gonna come home to roost, and you try to accomplish something, we're gonna help you. That's assuming you have good people. And I don't know that you'll always have that rapport with the, I suspect it'll be a much more of a revolution of people coming and going, more so than a police department that's dedicated only to this department. So, I think by 3 minutes we've all done.
Thank you, Dale. It is, but it's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up I have Daniel Doty.
My name is Dan Doty, and I want to begin with, I want you to know that police work is a tough profession. It is not for everyone, and I truly respect those who have chosen to wear the badge, past and present. Now, my wife and I moved to Moose Lake about 10 years ago. Prior to living here, I had approximately a 26-year career in law enforcement. I began by working for a few years for the city of Virginia up on the Iron Range as a patrol officer. I retired as a patrol sergeant with the St. Louis County Sheriff's Department. My first assignment with the St. Louis County Sheriff's Department was in a contract city of Aurora, Minnesota. In my experience there, it worked well. Little history, there were two cities up on the range that were contracted by the Sheriff's Department. One was Mountain Iron, and one was the city of Aurora. My understanding is of a month ago anyway, Mountain Iron still has continued to contract, and I'm thinking it's probably about 50 years worth. Aurora has consolidated with White Lakes, and they have formed a public safety division. So that's where those two were. Those were the two contract towns. Now, as far as the law enforcement situation in Moose Lake, if the information that that it was reported is correct, Sheriff Lake was approached about contracting with the city to provide police protection, and if interested, was asked to submit a plan to the city. My understanding is that the sheriff has presented a plan that would dedicate 4 full-time deputies to the city, and they would work out of the current police department facility. The sheriff would take over the task of maintaining law enforcement in the city and also accept the responsibility of any future liabilities. This would be provided at a cost considerably less than the current proposed city budget. Consistent quality law enforcement for the citizens of Moose Lake at a lower cost, in my opinion, is something that I think the city should seriously consider. I understand that change is difficult. I hope the city can put emotions aside and make a decision based on facts that is best for the residents of the city. Thank you.
All right. Benny Creel, is that how you say your name?
Actually, it's cool, but I'm nice.
Cruel, okay, perfect.
Okay. I'm writing to, or talking to support the local police. They connect with local city administration, they connect with our community residents, they learn about the suspicious people so they can keep us safe by knowing their lifestyle and keeping an eye on their social behaviors. They are able to observe and inform the community of environmental issues to keep us safe. The response times are very quick. I've had to use the police 3 times since I've been here. Hiring out-of-town police force issues that I'm thinking about are unaware of the local socialization groups, the good guys versus the bad guys. Different shift officers on a regular basis can be confusing, and little action may take place to keep us safe. What are their shifts and what are their response times if we need extra help? I really support our local police. You know, they've been very helpful to me over the years and my family in the city. And I always tell them, here's just something kind of funny, just park in my driveway and within 2 hours you'll get your months with the speeders.
Thank you.
Right. Lori Westmoreland, how are you feeling? Put maybe.
Yeah, I put maybe. I have questions that
Okay, perfect.
I wanted to ask also. Sorry. Lori Westmoreland, for a business, not an actual resident, I live about 3/10 of a mile outside of the city. So, my question, I am in support of the local police department. I wanna know if something happens to them, are they automatically hired by sheriff, troopers? Does that happen, that they automatically have a job, that they don't lose their jobs?
Kelly is here.
So I cannot automatically hire them. What I have told the city is that I will guarantee them all an interview in our process. We have a very robust hiring process that all of my employees have to go through. But I will guarantee them an interview, which not everybody is guaranteed that step in the process. So.
Okay, and then if we have sheriff, if they get a call outside of the city, do other sheriffs take that call, or will the deputies go to another call that's outside
Mr.
of?
Mayor, can I come up there so everybody can
You know
hear?
what I
I don't know if
think
they
we
can hear me
should
sitting
do?
down.
You should have had it set up, so you don't have to come every time, but, yeah, please.
I could use the exercise, I'm good.
I apologize, I had it set up here for you, we could have.
I'm okay here. So I think the question was if there is a call for service outside of the city limits, will the deputies that are assigned to the city of Moose Lake go to that call? As a matter of routine, no, they will not. Deputies that are out working for the county would be the ones that would respond to that. Now, having said that, if it is an emergency call, if you know, there is a very critical call, yes, they could go, because we want to get the nearest law enforcement officer there. I mean, for example, if it was a crime in progress, it's a burglary in progress, it's a vicious assault in progress, whatever it might be, we would then have that deputy that is in the city, if they are not tied up in another priority city call, back up the deputies out into the township. And that is not any different than how we've been operating for many, many, many years. All law enforcement in the state of Minnesota has mutual aid agreements, and we rely upon each other to be able to back each other up for things like that. And then it allows us to have more law enforcement response to critical incidents like that. So you may see a trooper that's gonna show up, you may see, a deputy that'll show up, or it could be, I'm sure if those of you that live in the township have seen a City of Moose Lake officer out in your township, and that is why. But as a matter of routine, they would not be doing that, it would be assigned to the other deputies. That answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And I mean, personally, I see the city officers working in concert with our county deputies, because everybody just works together, and I don't want to see the city lose the police department and working in concert with the deputies, because they have their jobs and the troopers have their jobs and the city has their jobs. And having less officers doing all the jobs, it just, and kids, I got a bunch of family kids at the school, and yes, everybody, they will be there, but having the local, hi, you can wave as you're going down the road, know them, come into the business, or when you call 911, and having the deputies have their jobs, and the local peace officers have their jobs. So I just think that not losing a local police department would be a positive, and,
Thank you, we're at the announcement. Yes, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sheriff Kelly Lake, would you be willing to share any details on what the staffing would look like for the deputies, as far as if it would consistently be the same deputies, or how that process would work for the sheriff's department office?
Yes. Yes, thank you. So our proposal, we would have 4 deputies that are assigned full-time to the city of Moose Lake as if they were Moose Lake officers, just like you get now. So you would get to know them. In the schools, you'd see them around the schools, you'd see them around the businesses, you'd see them around the communities. We have, this is not anything that is new in the state of Minnesota, having the sheriff contract for local police departments. But it is newer to our office. However, we do have one contract that we have had since about 2015 with Thompson Township. And we have one deputy that is assigned there full-time. So that deputy, you know, one of their focus that they wanted as a township was on the school. So that deputy spends a lot of time with the school and the kids and around there. So that is something that, you know, we would absolutely, it would not be a list of rotating deputies through there. It would be deputies that are assigned just to the city, and that would be their full-time job.
Thank you. Read the next name, please.
Yes, I've got Douglas Probst. Is it Probst?
Does my 3 minutes count from now, or should I get up? Someone lock that door?
You may want to move the mic up.
I'm also winded. I appreciate the comments of Mr. Gardy, or what was said about Aurora. Oh, I'm sorry, you. Will the sheriff's department be adding new officers for what you have now? Or
I'm getting winded too. Yes, we don't have the staff complement to be able to fulfill this contract with 4 additional deputies. So we would have to add staff to be able to accomplish that.
So then our Carlton County taxes would go up?
Well, no, because that's what this is what the proposal is, why the city would be paying for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other thing is, does the city own the ice arena?
Yes.
And I guess my next question is why?
Well, the people that voted it in probably, I don't know, 30 years ago, longer. It was voted in back then, and it has been in the city ever since. And that was the wish of the people at the time. And the city has not had any reason to sell it, or nobody brought forward to do so.
Okay.
And it is well used, as you see, hundreds are used every winter.
No, I understand that, it's good for the hotels and everything else around here and the people that serve food. But maybe if the city shouldn't own the arena, maybe it should be a private thing. It should be the hockey arena. I mean, this is one thing, that's not the main reason. The problem that I see, first of all, law enforcement is very hard to fill jobs, isn't it?
It is more difficult than it was in the past.
Yes. And with everything that's going on, how do we know how soon they can fill those positions? And then like these gentlemen here, you know, when you start taking away from the city, you're not gonna get them back again. And to have someone qualified as a law enforcement that's willing to do his job, because most people, unfortunately, what we have today is the shooters, okay? And with the shooters, everybody's running away from the bullets as the law enforcement's running too. And I just feel that we should take a look at maybe some other options. I don't know what they are yet. You know, this is the first I looked at this, but I think, I'm in favor of keeping it, but I don't know, I don't want my taxes to keep going up either.
No, I understand.
So, it's hard to maintain officers. I don't know how fast we go through ours already. You know, but it's hard to maintain them.
Historically, we've kind of been a training.
Facility for somebody else, yeah.
We do hire in the past a lot of young when they're training, and after so many years, they move on.
Right.
It could be a county, it could be anywhere in the state or state patrol. And we can't blame them, they can get paid more, we're a small community. We can't match the wage that bigger cities or counties or states can get paid. So traditionally it happened. We did try to bump it up a few years back, but that can be eaten up. Cost of living, inflation can eat that up real quick.
Right.
And it has already. And that's kind of what's brought this forward to everyone. And we heard increasing 1%. Everybody in the whole city, every business brings in about 14,000.
With all the state property that we don't get taxes from,
You know,
I know, do they contribute to the law enforcement end of it? But yet we respond if they need something up, that's going on up there.
right.
Well, I guess,
And that is, like Kelly, the sheriff, I should say, statewide, they support each other and they have to, they need backup. It's a lifesaver. Kind of like fire departments, they're not gonna respond to a neighbor that asks for help. I mean, it's a safety.
you know, I understand that, but at the same time, even going back to like the Cloquet recent shooting, if your sheriffs would have been in town here, they would have been called up there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So during that time, again, no coverage.
If I could clarify that, if we had someone dedicated to the city, they would not leave the city to go up to Cloquet for that. They would not do that. They would stay in the city.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mike? Mike Peterson?
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for taking on this task of the city and protecting us here. I'm going to give my support to any of the council that supports keeping this department here in town locally. One, like you know, once you would change something like this, it's such a huge change, it's going to be very difficult to bring it back. So it's going to need a lot of careful thought in doing this, because I don't see how you could even, you know, purchase all the vehicles and equipment and everything to bring it back at once. You'd have to phase it in, so that would be really a challenge. The other thing I see, you know, I'm giving you permission to raise my taxes, and like we know, you don't get that much with just your taxes. So you guys are gonna have to make, and gals are gonna have to make some serious cuts throughout the city, and we're gonna lose services because of it, because there's no other choice. And I realize that's out there too. And I love all those services very much, but we're going to have to cut back. And we're going to have to make this work. The Sheriff's Department is wonderful. I have no problem with the Sheriff's Department. But the commissioners, you never know what they're going to be thinking, right, Gary? You know, you've got commissioners from the majority from Cloquet. You know, boy, we need extra money there this year. What are we doing with the Sheriff's Department? So you think, well, we got a good proposal this year, but what is it? When you take it out of your hands, this council, and you actually put it into their hands. And I'd rather have more local control. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Kim Smith. Do you want to speak?
My questions have all been answered by Sheriff Laker.
Perfect. Okay, so
Thank
then
you.
we only have one more, and it's Lisa, is it Knudsen? I'm so sorry.
Hi, my name is Lisa Kowalski. I am I believe what you guys would call a city integral. I have a cabin up here. I have a cabin up here. We've been here for about 20 years. And I feel very secure with the police department that we have, knowing that the home I have here is not occupied 5 to 6 days a week. And I have a couple questions as I go through this for all this negotiated cost. How much more is that gonna make this budget go up? You've got supervision, so we're gonna have to take part of somebody's salary there. How much overtime are they gonna have? And if you take on the miscellaneous costs that were in here, that's almost $100,000 for the city. probably could add it back in here. I'm not seeing much of a difference in cost. You know, what kind of, do we have any rate guarantees for next year? Can they continue to move it up?
A lot of questions when it's not negotiated. gonna-
No, I'm not, I'm just,
Right. And
these are my
you should
thoughts.
also know, we're in negotiations with our own police department, and the county is still in negotiations with their police department. Administrator, any other word?
Yes, so what has been looked at and discussed at a city level and at a council level is, you know, the opportunity to look at, you know, 2-3-year terms, or, you know, and establishing a contract and a metric that you can budget out 2-3 years in advance based on knowing a percentage increase ahead of time. In addition, and I apologize if it was not clear, those services that say negotiated, those are all included in the proposal amount, so no extra monies would be associated with any of those line items.
And then just one other quick question, and I'm just not familiar with this. We've got general government at 528,000, and then city administration at 350,000. Is there a difference between those two, or?
Yes, thank you for asking. So things in general government are like legal fees, our workers' comp insurance, you know, property casualty insurances, different things like that that are part of general government. City administration is more related to staffing, but also has the items in there for copier machines, just duplicating services, anything of that nature. So city administration is more staffing based, while general government is more functional city expenses, like insurances and things of
How
that
many
nature.
city administrative people do we pay?
3.
And that includes everything running in the office, that's supplies, equipment, is legal fees in there? Legal fees
Legal
part of that?
fees,
There's
yes.
legal fees.
Where does legal fees fit, government or administration?
General government.
Yeah, we have a DMV, which most cities don't have, but we supply that as a service. We do not make money on that DMV, we lose money. How much did we lose to run the DMV for this community?
Well, the general fund actually does a transfer to the motor vehicle department, and it's the only transfer that occurs at this time between general fund and any enterprise fund specifically, and so that transfer is budgeted at $50,000 for 2024. There's actually a really extensive list of items within city administration, that's all public data, and I can absolutely send that out if you'd like to provide your information, then you can see line item, what those are for general government and city administration, all the breakdowns.
And then just one other question, you had mentioned that the police officers in a city make less than they would when they move up to a county. So how can, 4 officers cost less than what we have here?
So a lot of things within the police department budget, you have all of the administrative costs to essentially run the department. So the maintenance and operations of the police department building itself, but also the cost for vehicle repair, equipment, things of that nature, uniforms. So what's on top of that is more or less operating foundational costs that you eliminate the overhead with a subcontracting option.
Yes, I just wanted to be for the record, that I pay a lot of taxes out here, and I can make sure.
Absolutely.
And I really like having the police department that we have.
Thank you very much. There's no other citizens.
residents.
How many are outside of the city? 9, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Maybe at this time, since Kelly, you are here, do you want to come up to the podium? And we'll allow anyone to ask you any questions that you may have that have not been answered, if there are any. So, anybody that wants to speak, please raise your hand. I'll recognize, I'll start from here, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor.
Could you just come up because we are broadcasting this to the community?
Hi, Mike Peterson. My question is to Sheriff Lake, will the sheriff's department be responsible to enforce the ordinances of the city? So that's dog catching or, just say that as example, all the different ordinances keeping people out of the park after midnight, whatever.
So normally that would be something that is talked about within the contract negotiations, and we have not discussed the ordinance things. Statutorily, the sheriff is not obligated within the county to handle ordinance violations. By statute, the sheriff is responsible to keep the peace and apprehend felons. So some of those other things we are not required to do, but if we had, if there was deputies there at the time and they're working and it's their shift, they would absolutely be enforcing those.
Next, who is next back here? Raise your hand. Yeah, right here.
I signed up as living outside, but I also have property here, so therefore I can speak either way.
Yeah, could you
And
come
so
up?
I'd like to speak about what's going on in the real world.
Yeah, if you can make up it so. Apologize for having you have to come up, but since you're broadcasting it to people, they won't be able to hear your question.
I have a question. I'm gonna try and deal in facts, because there's been too much, there's been too much, that's been said, in regards to what's happening here, and I don't mean here tonight, I mean social media, letters to the editor, we're not dealing in the facts. So what I'm going to do is I've done a survey, and that is from Cloquet all the way down to Wyoming Forest Lake. There is only one police department that is not serviced by the county, and that is here. There are two, and I'm using 35W, or 35, excuse me, as the place to look at, because you have two prisons other than Moose Lake here. You have the federal prison in Sandstone, and you have the state prison in Rush City. So, Sandstone, for example, they hire with the county, which is Pine, they have 50 hours a week, and one of them is office. So they negotiate each one of these. I'm not going to get into that particular aspect of negotiations because these are all different. Hinckley, they have 10 hours a day. Pine City has 12 hours a day. Now we'll move down to Rush City. Rush City has 120 hours a week, which includes 3 full-time that are their deputies. North Branch, that also contracts with the Chisago County. Harris has 48 hours a month. Stacy has 80 hours a week, and as of 1/1, they combine with the township. So that's another story, and they'll be negotiating a new contract with the Sheriff's Department. Now let's take a look at the taxes.
Before you start, where are we at town-wise?
You got a little over a minute left.
So,
All right,
just so you know.
Moose Lake, value, $479,700. That person pays $8,022 in taxes. Rush City, that same person pays $6,353. So there's a 26% difference between here and Rush City, and you are alike in many ways. Sand Lake, Windermere Township, that same person would be paying out there $3,900, 106% more than you're paying here in town. Moose Lake Township, you have that same person out there, you're talking about, instead of, this one is at $240,000, pays $2,610. The same one in the city of Moose Lake would be paying $3,804.
You should know we're at 3 minutes and.
I love talk.
No, we have to keep control, and I set the rules and we keep the rules. Now, when you're talking taxation like that with counties,
Yes.
just so you know, the city of Moose Lake, 5 years has it been? Or 4 years, we did a zero tax increase. Zero.
Yeah, but that's not the issue there.
No, the
We're talking how much we gotta pay.
tax increase is because of the property value,
Right.
and the city doesn't do property value, the county does.
I know, I'm aware of it,
Yeah. But I'm aware of I understand what you're saying.
because I've done a whole bunch of research on this.
I appreciate that. And that information, the council heard, and it's well taken. Who is some of the other people that rose their
I pay
hand?
taxes.
Please, can you come up?
Yep.
Thank you.
My name's Austin Berg. I'm a retired police officer from the city of Moose Lake. I spent 32 years in law enforcement, half of that with the county and the other half with Moose Lake. I've been retired for 27 years. And actually, I support the local police department. I think that there's a lot to be said for that at this particular time, having officers that are well aware of the community. And that was one of the things that, going back to the three of us that used to work the shifts here, we knew if somebody got a new car because a new car showed up in that driveway, and we knew it was okay to be there. We also knew a lot of the dynamics of some of the families, some of the domestic issues. We also knew and did some changing out because we only covered 2 shifts, and we were done at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. But there were times we snuck out, and there were a few times that we caught a burglar. The one thing about not having enough people to cover this 24 hours, either from the sheriff's side or from the law enforcement side, especially with officers now that don't live in or around the community, is what do people do when they need a law enforcement officer? Speaking from experience, it kind of tightens you up a little bit when you're standing here downtown and there's an open door and it has the appearance of somebody trying or tried to break in. You're waiting 10, 15, 20 minutes or more, depending on where the deputy is at the time. And this would hold true whether you had deputies here or not. So think of that as some lady or an elderly person who's got somebody rattling on their door at 2:15 in the morning and that squad has gone home. Or in the middle of the day. We live in a dynamic type of a situation where you don't know how stable anybody, even in this room, is. And what they can do, or what they may do if they're not very happy about the outcome. I feel, however this city goes, and again, I'm with the guys in blue. I wore that many years, I wore the brown many years. I have 100% confidence in the sheriff. I went to school with her dad, so I've known her for many years also. And so what she puts together, I know is a good deal. But I want to say, and I realize taxes, going back, we negotiated with the city and tried to tell them back 30-some years ago, you have to raise taxes. And it's good to say, wow, we didn't raise any taxes. But guess what happens? What we're doing here right today. We're not raising taxes for 2, 3, 4, 5, and I don't know how many years before that. Everything keeps going up. But I feel for the citizens of this community who live here, pay taxes here, for the businessmen that have invested in this community rather than another one, you need law enforcement here 24/7, around the clock, to respond to those needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Was there anybody else who had questions for Kelly before we go on? Kelly, could you come back up? Tom, did you want to ask Kelly?
I got a couple, y'all want to make a statement?
You don't have any for Kelly?
Not today.
Sorry,
We'll
Kelly.
save it for another day.
Yeah, next time I can pull over. Tom Anderson, fourth generation Moose Lake. My grandfather started a business. My father did it, I did it. Retired. I've dealt with, well, he knows, as a trooper, I'd see him on the road. My truck saw him on the road. The county deputies, my trucks would, be pulling in and they'd pull through our lot, just to check, hey, what's this truck doing here? 'Cause we ran 24 hours. We serviced Upper Michigan, Northern Wisconsin, Northern Minnesota. We ran into troopers, deputies, constables, all over, and had interactions with all of them. They'd see you and they go, hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you on this route for a couple months. And I go, I'm filling in. And had no problem with any of them. It's economics. I can see going with the county, I can see staying with what we have. And one thing everybody has to remember, when your property taxes go up, it's not the city, just the city. There's the school district. There's well, we don't have the hospital district anymore, but it's the county, it's the school districts, it's everything else that raises your taxes. And I've known a lot of our local, I remember Frank Zinkowski. And most of you guys all remember Frank. He'd see you and he'd tell you, hey, it's after 9 o'clock, get your ass home. And you dealt with it, But I was in Superior one day, as a goofy story. I was walking out of a store at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was walking back to the truck, and Superior cops came around the corner, and they were checking me out because they saw me walk out of the building, and the two of them came around the corner, and they saw me, and they said, oh, it's just you. And I thought, it's Superior, Wisconsin. I hadn't been on that route in 6 months, but they remembered me, and they weren't looking to cuff me. But, our guys in brown, the guys in maroon, they knew my drivers, they knew me, they knew my dad, knew my grandfather, and they all did a good job. If I got a speeding ticket, thanks, Darren. I deserved it. So that's what it is. So what do we do? It's a hell of a decision. And put it in your guys' hand, and if we don't like it, well, move somewhere else.
Any other question? Yes, sir.
Ed, can I speak?
Yes, please come up.
Mayor, I should say.
Ted is good.
My name is Ray Arnold. I retired from Moose Lake Police Department a little over 10 years ago, but I spent about 30 years, half of that being part-time, which was half-time. But yes, I'm biased. I don't want to see this department gone. There's a lot of little things that happen with this department that people don't realize. They don't realize the number of extra time we put in free, hours we do, places we go, top. People don't realize it, a lot of free time. They found out one time a few years ago when they decided we should be punching a time clock. It didn't last long, and they found out what it was costing them, because now they had to pay for all the extra time we put in. So things like that, and who's to say how much it'll cost down the road? It's probably gonna change. It's not gonna stay the same. Everybody, especially small communities. And you talk about Pine County. Do you know how many calls I answered myself for Pine County because they had nobody north of Sandstone? I took a shots fired call one night in Pine County that they didn't even send backup. So that's the kind of things we dealt with out of this department. So, yes, I'm biased, and I support this department 100%. So please, do everything you can to keep this department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
can I speak, please?
yes, please come up.
Hi, my name is Mae Lewis. I don't live here in town. My kid's dad does own an apartment building here in town. So when I was talking to him about coming to the meeting, he was all for it. He is for the police department 100%. I've spent a lot of time doing ride-alongs in the Moose Lake Police Department. I can actually work as a part-time officer if the department so chose. But I just want to say that there are some things that are being overlooked on the police department, because what about grants? What about different funding? So there's a grant out there that would provide up to 3 full-time officers for 3 years, but nobody's applied for it. There's a $25,000 equipment grant out there that could be applied for. Nobody's applied for it. It don't mean you would get it, but if you don't try, you sure as heck not gonna get it. So if we're not putting in the effort to lower that budget, but we're putting in the effort in other city places to do grants for those things, why are we only looking at the police department to cut the budget? If I have financial costs, I look at everything and I go back and I look at that. Where I work right now, I have a $2,500 budget, and I make my office work. I do a lot of work with that budget, so look at $300-some thousand and we think of copiers and stuff. I don't know, I'm not a mathematician, but, so if the city already pays, the residents of the city already pay taxes to Carleton County, they have a Carleton County designated tax bracket that they pay in Carleton County for that, for the Carleton County to back them up. So now we're gonna give Carleton County more money. So doesn't that make it the same cost as the police department that we currently have to keep our local people that are in blue, that look friendlier than, I'm sorry, brown uniforms? I would have been happy to be a deputy, but I probably won't make it there, especially not standing up here now. But I would rather support the blue. The kids at the school think the blue looks friendlier. They're more apt to go and talk to them. You know, there's just a lot of reasons to keep our city department. Give them one more year, give them another chance to let them do some of the stuff to see where it goes. You've already budgeted it. Don't just roll them out in 1 year. So things can be done, but you can't just put somebody in there who don't really know how to do administrative stuff for them if you want these grants and stuff. I would be willing to put in some work for the grants and stuff for free to help the department. They could stay around for another year at least.
Thank you. You know, just, I'm gonna make a statement, because I've heard a couple of times now the cost of running the city office. So just hang on, I'm gonna make a statement. In the last couple of years, we consolidated a lot of management activities into the city office. We no longer have a full-time person working at the arena. That was like a $40,000 cut. We also no longer have a full-time person or even a three-quarter person working at the park system. That was pulled in, that position does not exist like it did. We no longer have a contractor with maintenance or management of the 2 cemeteries. By consolidating those items, we saved about $80,000. That brought in a lot more management work into the office. So we took part of that savings, about 20-some thousand, and hired Taylor. Now Taylor and Ryan took all that extra management activities, and Alyssa took some of it, plus we gave more responsible to Ryan with oversight of the liquor store, and Phil oversight of the arena. So city staff took that workload, and altogether we saved about $60,000. Now the office cost has not changed any for 20 years that I've been the mayor. But in the last couple of years with inflation, we say inflation is, federal government puts it out at 15%, 16%. Actually, it's around 25 to 28%. Everything has increased. There's a lot of things that Lisa mentioned that is not, you just see a solid number. Underneath that number, you've got, I don't know, maybe 100 line items or more. It makes it looks like it's just personnel or just a copy machine, so it isn't. There's so much going on that it's full-time, they're busy all the time. To me, it hasn't changed a bit. What two people could do a few years ago, computers are supposed to make it all easier, and I think you all have experienced it. They have not. It seems more work than ever, and the more the state changes things, the more work you have to do. Every year, there are new things that come from the state, new changes, new programs. The police department, those guys get to continually train on different stuff. To get on, I don't think we were up to date when Darren came in. Darren did a fantastic job and updated that whole office and computers and the programs that you had to learn to work into to access the data at a state level. So Darren did a great job doing that. So I just wanted to state that about that, the cost of the office, running the office. That is what we're experiencing. Please come forward, state your name.
My name is Jordan Hagelin. I have one question for Sheriff Lake. Or two, actually. With the two deputies, that would be morning and after, or morning and evening, I'm assuming? Morning and night? Day and night, sorry.
So there's 4 deputies in the proposal, and we haven't, we don't have the shift identified yet.
Okay.
But it is not 24/7 coverage, as was alluded to in the presentation, because the accruals that they gain, so if there's sick time, or, they're off, on their vacation time, whatever, that is not being covered. That is not being covered by, will not be covered by that proposal. So initially, when I was approached by the city, and they asked me to give a proposal for what 24/7 coverage would look like. And I did that. This is not the proposal you see. The initial proposal I gave them, they said, we can't afford that. That's just too much. So then came this 4 deputy proposal. The initial proposal was for 5 to be able to cover 24/7. This will not cover 24/7.
What was that cost for that?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but
Do we have that?
I'll get it.
What that costs? Are you talking about the one for 24/7?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if we have that either, because we did.
So initially it was $778, roughly $778,000. And that didn't include any of the credit and everything else, but that was the initial proposal. So, and to be clear, this is not me as a sheriff wanting to come in and take over policing services in Moose Lake. I'm not trying to take over the Moose Lake Police Department. I was asked to provide a proposal because of where they're at with the budget and the current conditions. And so I gave the proposal, and at 4 deputies is what I feel, and I think for 24/7 it needs 5. But 4-person, 4 deputy proposal was the next best thing that I could provide, to be able to provide as close to 24/7 as we could. And if it, however, I think the best thing for the city is a 24/7, fully functioning, fully staffed Moose Lake Police Department. But I don't know if that's where they're gonna be able to provide at this time because of the budget. So having said that, I provided that proposal with the 4 deputies, and whatever way the city decides to go, I respect that completely. And if it is a contract with us, for the sheriff's office, myself and my office will do the best that we can to serve the public safety needs of the city of Moose Lake. And that does include, you know, the personal service, the, hey, the 4 deputies are assigned here all the time, they get to know you. We will even smile at you and wave. I hope they're doing that now. Do you have another question?
All right, and then one other question is, has I don't know if anybody else, I haven't heard anybody else bring this up, but has there been a discussion about a small sales tax at all for the businesses in Moose Lake?
We do have a sales tax in place right now that is dedicated to infrastructure.
Okay, what is that, what percent is that, do you know?
That is a half a cent. I believe that's what our sales tax is.
Okay.
And it is dedicated to infrastructure.
Okay, do you know what a 1% income tax or sales tax would look like for the city?
Could you double what 1% is?
So currently we budget about $225,000 annually for sales tax. So if we were looking to double the taxing percentage, you know, could assume that it would bring in twice as much, so $500,000.
So we would be able to, with our current funding, we'd be able to, with a 1% sales tax, we'd be able to have a fully funded police department with at least 5 office staff. Most likely.
It's possible. I don't know.
Mr. Mayor?
You're fighting, yes, sir.
The state of Minnesota has put a moratorium on income tax, state sales tax, excuse me, for the next 2 years. It was just out in the League of Minnesota Cities, so there is a moratorium. You cannot even apply for a sales tax, and you cannot adjust, those that have it cannot adjust their sales tax.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, well, I guess that'd be something to potentially look into in the future, but I'd be okay with paying a 1% sales tax. I don't know about everybody else, but it's not that much more, $1 for every $100 is spent, so.
Thank you, appreciate your.
Thank you.
I think Chad back there had his hand up. Officer Chad, I should say.
Thanks. First off, thank you everybody for coming tonight. My name is Chad Walsh. I do work at the Moose Lake Police Department. So I am one of the 3 that is left. And the question we have on behalf of the officers is how long are we going to kick the can? When are you guys actually going to make a motion and vote whether you're going to keep the police department or you're going with the sheriff's department? We've been going through this for 6 months. And we just want to know. We want to know where we sit. We've had numerous meetings, city council meetings, separate meetings. We just want to know, that's all we ask. Is it going to be tonight? Is it going to be in February? Is it going to be in March? We'd like some answers. Thanks.
Thanks, Chad. Were there other hands up here?
Can I have my other 30 seconds to say one other thing?
Yes, please.
All right.
And there's 2 other individuals? Okay.
Sorry, dear King, but, one other thing is, to my knowledge right now, that, anytime somebody's pulled over in most other places, part of that revenue goes to the city or the county when somebody's pulled over. Right now, Moose Lake has not approved anything, so anytime somebody's pulled over and gave a ticket here in Moose Lake, none of that money comes to the city. So that is something that could be proposed to the state or made ruling on for that money to come to the city. And if I forget how many calls they said that they had for service last year, if we looked at that, I'm going to say there's probably a couple hundred tickets that were gave out on that, and revenue could have came to the city. So we lost a huge opportunity on revenue with that too. So we are looking at things, but we're not really putting the effort in to find a true solution. We're putting a Band-Aid on it that's gonna cover us for a year until the other people that are higher up say, you know, Carlton County's now gonna be more expensive. We lost our department, our vehicles, our office. So there are different ways.
Chief, I think you wanted to.
Just to answer your question, last year between January of 2022 and January 2023, there was 2,244 calls in Moose Lake.
How many tickets that could have drawn revenue?
That, I didn't break it down into tickets, but I'm sure there was a good amount in that number.
Yes, sir, please.
Hey everybody, good evening. I'm Stan Stansky and I live in the township, very close to Moose Lake, about a mile away. So here's my question, I'm gonna tag along here with this young lady here. Is there a committee that looks for grants to try to get some money to fund the police department and maybe the transportation needs for the city? And if not, maybe there should be. The other piece, I've got a question is, would municipal bonds be an option?
I know what you're saying. We've been very successful with grants, with infrastructure, and with the trail systems. The problem that you have with grants, most of them are 50-50 match, and that sounds great. We did one on Kenwood South. We put in for, it sounded great. We did a highway, because it touches Highway 61, we could get state funding. So we got the grant, we were awarded it, we had to match it. I think that was, if you're involved in this, $1 million, just council $1 million project, it come up with $500,000 in from the city. And the state would give $500,000. And it sounds good when you get it, but a $500,000 for a small city is really tough. That's a lot of money. You gotta be saving for years to have that on hand. So what happened, there was dozens of cities throughout the state got the same funding. As time went on, city after city after city turned their money back in because they could not find the matching funds. Every time they turned it in, the state gave us another percentage that we didn't have to pay, which was great. I think, Phil, you were involved with that.
Yep, it was Third Street down
And we got, yes, that was part of it. So in the end, I think we got 80% of it paid because a dozen other cities couldn't get the matching funds. This council and this administration and the last ones we've had been very excellent at saving money and trying to get that matching fund for grants specifically. Luckily, the trails that we've had built, the safe route to school, the grants that we got from the state, they paid for it 100%. Fantastic. The next extension we have, it'll go from 10 up to MSRP, where it'll be a trail connected around the whole city. That is 100% funded. Phil, I don't know how many grants you have gotten.
I've been successful on small ones.
Yes.
2 per year for the last 4 years.
And
But
when
they're
you
just
say
small
small,
wastewater ones.
12 to 15,000
Around
for us
20.
is a lot of money. So yes, grants are great, and we're gonna go after them. The administrators have been fantastic in applying and getting them approved, and we're gonna go after all the grants we can. There's some grants we missed, that's gonna happen. There has been, and one thing you have to watch with grants, you know, let's say, okay, the grant comes out, let's say you get $100,000, you get this grant, and you can hire this officer. And you can, so you hire the person, you get their equipment, you get their all trained up, they're ready to go. Great, man, you have this for a year. The next year, that grant, you may not get it or may not be available. So if you retain that person in 5 years, you gotta come up with $100,000 every year after that. So you have to be really strategically thinking when you do these things, or you can put the city in debt real quick. And it's not just with the police department, it could be with one of the city projects or street department or whatever. It sounds great at the time, and politically, it's thrown out there to make a party look good or whatever it is, and it's there and then it's gone. It's a one-time thing, and it's not funded, the programs are not funded after it. And I know Gary gets that with the county all the time. The county has to be very careful with what they agree to with grants. But we are gonna go after every grant that we can.
Right. How about municipal bonds? Is that an option or no?
you know, we've used those in the past, that's been options on other building projects and other things that we've done. So everything is gonna be looked at. This just hit us this year. When we got through with the budget, looking at the budget in September, I know Chad's saying 6 months back, and that's when we started, we thought, wow, this thing has jumped up to $900,000. So we're on the front end of this right now, and that's why we're doing this. And your input just reinforces that, yeah, you've got to look at that. I know I went over 3 minutes, sorry,
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone? Yes, sir. And I do see you back there, way in the corner. I'll have you come up. Yes, sir. Could you state your name, please?
Hi there, my name is Dakota Bishop. I grew up in the township, currently live in the city. I had a question for both our police department and the sheriff's department. I've had positive experiences with both of them. I've had careers involving law enforcement a lot, so I've dealt with both Moose Lake and Carleton County a lot. Both very great professional agencies. Glad to have them in our communities. I have questions for both our interim police chief.
Yes.
Sorry, what's your name again?
Chad Pattison.
Chad Pattison.
Yes.
All right. Met you once, but didn't quite catch it. I guess one of the things that my concerns are is differences in training and equipment availability. The reason I bring that up is actually many years ago, Moose Lake police officer actually saved the life of my younger brother. It was a medical emergency that Moose Lake police officer was able to respond to faster than an ambulance could. And if it was not for that and their training, the equipment availability, my younger brother probably would still be here today, so I'm very thankful for that. And I'm just curious what the differences between training and equipment availability with officer or deputy squads are. If there is differences, if they're comparable, if there's anything you can touch on regarding that.
Well, at this point, we have AEDs in our squads, electronic defibrillators. I wrote the training manual for our police department. I've been an FTO trainer, field training officer, probably the last 10 years now. I would be the one training our officers. They're gonna get 3 to 4 months of training before they're gonna go out on their own. And they would get as much training as I could give them. Like I said, I wrote the FTO manual, and I'm not gonna put somebody out on their own unless I feel they're ready to go out on their own. I've actually done exactly what you said. I was able to save somebody because I was just on the road from where it happened and beat the ambulance there and was able to get somebody to stop bleeding and everything like that. And yeah, it absolutely works that way. But I believe we're pretty comparable equipment-wise with the county. Obviously, they probably can get more equipment than we have. We have AEDs, we have first aid, and everybody's trained in that from Moose Lake.
So we do have AEDs, and we have for many, many years. We carry that. We are trained in, actually, our lieutenant here is one of our trainers. That's the other beauty of our office, is we have many of our trainers that are right in-house. So many of our deputies are trained in different aspects of our, and they provide most of our training, outside of some specialized things, but we have trainers for firearms, tasers, CPR, AED, less lethal, defensive tactics, what else? Anyway, we do have most of our mandatory training that we are required to have. We have trainers right in-house that we.
And touching on that, other than the defensive tactics and the first aid, I'm certified to train all the other stuff too.
All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions, and I'd just like to say that if we do decide, if the city does decide to contract with the sheriff's department, I hope that we can keep the officers that we have. They're big pillars of our community, and I'm very glad to have them here. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have one back here to speak. Could you come forward, please?
My name is Jude Stephens. I live in Windermere Township,
I appreciate the open forum and the demeanor in which you're holding this meeting. I grew up in the village of New Hope with a local police department, and the police chief lived 5 houses from us. I saw the man put in many hours, extra hours. I saw the man sprint over 3 fences to save a neighbor that was having a diabetic convulsion. I realize the value of local police. I feel more secure even out in Windermere having Moose Lake Police Department. I have the utmost respect for the sheriff and all the deputies and every police officer that serves now or ever has. But I really would have one question for Sheriff Blake. You mentioned earlier that you think the best thing for the city of Moose Lake would be to have 24/7 with their own local police department. I'd like to see us work together as a community now that we know what's in jeopardy. People need to step up and help, so let's put our heads together and figure out a way to make a difference here, to keep our police department. And I'd like to invite the sheriff up to come up and speak about why she thinks it would be best for us to have a local police department, if you would. Thank you.
Well, I'm not gonna elaborate on it, but, I mean, it makes sense to have 24/7 coverage. The city of Moose Lake, just with the makeup of the city and all the businesses, Highway 73 going right through it, the schools, the hospital, it brings in a lot of people. So it makes sense to have it 24/7. I understand the budgetary constraints where that may not be an option. So then, you know, what is the best option? Is it having less coverage and having a 3-man department, or is it having, you know, we can provide 4 deputies, so it's a little bit more coverage. Again, best option would be local PD 24/7. And I don't know how else to say that, but.
Here, one other question, please.
Thank you, everybody, all of you, I appreciate what you do. I recently work in a place in Cloquet, and recently we had a shelter-in-place lockdown threat on our job. So we're all in the building, we're all adults. I was in the building, my husband works there, on the other end of the building. Now, this is just a threat. With all the shootings and stuff going on now, I was scared, so scared, I was crying. We're in Cloquet, so Carleton County shows up, like that. Now imagine that's in the school, and our kids have to do that for a half an hour until they show up, or 45 minutes until Pine City shows up. That's not cool with me. I want these guys here. There's a prison here. If someone gets out, goes to the school to hide, or if something happens to our children, I don't want them to have to wait a half an hour or 45 minutes. I want these guys here. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I clarify that, please?
Yes, please, Kelly.
So I just want to make sure that everybody is clear that in our proposal, we are not sending deputies from Carleton a half an hour away. They will be stationed right here in the city, and they will respond to calls for service when they come in. So just so that everybody is aware of that.
And what if it's not 20%? Was I correct in stating that they'll be working out of the same police facility that they are now, your deputies would be?
Right now, that has been what was talked about with the city.
Okay.
Yes, that has not been finalized, but that's
okay.
what was talked about, yes.
I can.
So, yeah, I heard somebody in the back say it's not 24/7. It's not, but neither is the current police department budget with three officers. With that would not be 24/7 either.
So if it has not been negotiated into that for the cost of them to work out of the current location, would there be an additional cost for them to work out of that location? Because right now that'd be meaning working out of their cars.
Right now, the negotiations have not been completed with our own police department, because their contract is up, and also the county is still working on their contract. So they're both open for negotiations. So there are some things that we cannot talk about, because if we did, it would be unfair labor practice so we can't go into those issues at this meeting. But
So-
there would be differences, but nothing that I don't think Kelly's proposal or our proposal can't handle. There's budget there for that. And I think that yours, I won't speak for you. Definitely. I think at this time we're going to, is there one more?
Hi, if the sheriff is working in or out of the Moose Lake City Police Department, those budgeted numbers that are under the police department will still be, they will be in addition to the sheriff's proposal. You had talked about, included in that was the administration of the building and all of that. That was part of the police department's budget. That would be in addition to what is contracted for the sheriff also, because you're still going to have the expenses for the building. Is that correct?
So within the proposal, there are line items for a credit for, phone and some other services within there, phone, fiber, and copier. So those costs have already been calculated between the two, and there's a credit for that. As it stands right now, I could just share a little bit of landscape, although those specific metrics have not been established. The city still, in combination with the fire district, has ongoing relations through 2029 as part of the bond that was established to fund the building. So there is some time to work that out. There's time to work that out with the fire district, and there's time to have all those things established as from what they currently are now to what may look different in a couple of years. All of that can be addressed. But as far as the mention of some of the office things, those have started to be discussed and are already factored in here. Additional items like equipment and squads and computers and things of that nature that are admin costs that are built into the police department budget would not be there with a subcontracting scenario.
But they're still working out of that building, and the costs for that building that are included in the police department's budget will be in addition to, the costs of the building aren't gonna change. But now it's in the police department's budget, it will be
Added to the sheriff's department budget.
The city currently has an
in
agreement.
addition to the sheriff's department.
Thank you for mentioning it, that's an excellent question. The city currently has an agreement with the fire district as far as operation of the building. And so as it stands right now, the city provides some services in trade for being able to have access to those particular offices. There's not money changing hands between the fire district and the city other than payments for the bond that was established to build the building. So there's no additional monies tied to operating that building that are in addition to or included in this other than some of the line items that we've already discussed. There's a dynamic between the city and the fire district that's established, and there's no lease or rent or anything like that because the city in change provides some utilities at a discounted rate and things like that.
And so those are not in the budget for the police department then?
They are not in there currently. Correct. That's an excellent question.
Thank you, Kelly. Just out of curiosity, okay, Chief, you're gonna be the last person. Please come up.
Well, actually, I just wanted to bring up the comments from the nursing home.
Appreciate that,
Yep,
thank you.
absolutely.
Yes, and I can read that. This is from people in called the Moose Lake Village, which is our nursing home. This was sent by the residents, comments that they wanted to be read here to the public. We need Moose Lake PD. If we call, they are here fast. To wait for Carleton County could be a long wait depending on their availability. And I think that has been answered tonight, Kelly, that if it goes with the county, they're dedicated here, they're in the city. That was Lena Westerberg. Another comment, Moose Lake Village has recently started Coffee with a Cop. This has been a huge connection with the community residents' experience and gives us opportunities to be included in as members with the outside community members. Members of the village want and need this as part of the normalcy and familiarity. Another comment, the village is a safe place to live knowing that the Moose Lake Police Department is close and in the area. Residents of the nursing home can sometimes need immediate help. We can't wait for a long while for someone to show up. And I think Kelly, you have answered that, that in the contract, they're dedicated to serving women. I have one question myself, and then any council members, if they have a question. And this is to all of you here, and I've heard it several times, and this may be for the future of the council, depending on how they go. And I'm talking about your taxes. I just want to see a show of hands. If the city funded a 24/7 police department like we had, which is 5 officers, there's a chief full-time and 4 full-time, and the cost was $900,000, and you know how that's affecting the whole budget, which means the only way is gonna have to be grants and taxation, if you can get grants. How many would be willing to have that taxes raised to get that 24/7 coverage like we had?
Are you saying for city?
They live in the city limits?
Is city residents and business owners, is that what you're?
They're not in the city.
They don't live in the city limits, they're not really saying much.
Right, right, I understand, okay. I was just curious, council, do you have any questions for anyone? Walter, did you? Yes, go ahead, please.
All right, let me first say, everybody sitting at this table appreciates our law enforcement. We are all behind law enforcement 100%. But we were elected here to have a fiscal responsibility with the city of Moose Lake's taxpayers' money. And we all take that very serious. Right now, the proposal from Moose Lake costs more for less coverage, quite a bit more. There's about $128,000 difference on there. And keeping the Moose Lake Police Department still leaves us open to liability and healthcare claims, duty disability healthcare insurance. Right now, we basically have a whole other police department that no longer works for us that we pay duty disability healthcare insurance, and that cost is rather high, and that could continue to increase. And when we look at the budget as a whole, right now we're talking about the city police department budget. There's many areas of the city. A lot of them are struggling. We have a TMB that loses quite a bit of money. Unfortunately, the state takes most of the revenue that the DMV generates. We have an arena that now needs a $610,000 air compressor or compressor system to make the ice for the arena that we're going to have to come up with. And one of the biggest problems that we have is our infrastructure. The city roads, water, and sewer. And right now, we have a plan developed to take that on. If we do a project every 3 years, it will take what needs to be fixed now well over 200 years, possibly 250 years, to fix what needs to be fixed now. We need to be able to get that done at a quicker rate. Otherwise, we're going to have no roads, we're going to have no water, we're going to have no sewer. And without that, we do not have a town. And we would not need a police department if we do not have a town. With going with Carleton County, we would still, that part of the budget would still be the largest budget that we have. That shows that we take this safety very seriously. Carlton County also has more resources than us. They have things like an investigator. The city of Moose Lake does not have an investigator. And I hear talk about rapport with the officers with the town. But the way that it's been over the last number of years, when we hire a new officer, they don't know anybody in the town. They're brand new, they're not from this area. So they have to build their rapport on the job as they're working with us. That would be the same as with Carlton County. So the police force of the old, where a lot of these gentlemen and officers lived in the area here, that is not the case anymore. We are hiring new people from out of the area that do not have the rapport. This is a very difficult situation for all of us here at this table. I know that many of us lose sleep over this. What we're trying to do is trying to find an affordable solution that allows us to be able to have the funding for all our budgets. If you looked at that one slide with the pie chart, right now 87% of our property tax revenue, this chart here, is going towards the police department. That leaves 13% to pay for all the other areas. And that is not fiscally possible. You know, we hear talk on grants. You cannot rely on the state giving you a grant. You know, so we need to have long-term projections here. So, you know, you can say, well, it's a possibility we could get some money from this grant. It's a possibility you can get money from this grant. But you do not know if the state is going to give that money out. So you can't rely on that. So this boils down to funding. Unfortunately, that's what it always usually boils down to, is finding the money to run the entire city. And like I brought up about the infrastructure, that is a serious issue. We're talking whether it's 200, 250 years to fix what needs to be fixed now. We simply can't do that. And in the future, our future generations, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, are going to be stuck in a situation where it is completely impossible for them to fix all that. We are not the only town in this situation. There are towns all across Minnesota that are facing these same difficult questions. And so I'm just trying to give you some information on how we look at all this, and some of the information on the other budgets, and trying to be able to find enough money to do everything. And I greatly appreciate you all coming here and telling us this. We need your information to make the proper decision. And like I said, I'm grateful that you all showed up, and with that, I'll let another counselor speak if they wish.
You know, before we do this, we should really close the public hearing and then the counselor speak. That would be the correct protocol to do this.
Aaron, you have somebody else to speak.
I'm gonna take only one more question, that's it. That'll be the only one.
Promise it short. Are we taking advantage of all the taxes that we can get? And what I mean is, I've heard rumors, don't know if it's true, but anybody that lives along Lakeshore Drive on this side, if they have access, they don't pay taxes.
All those things,
So that's five,
all those things
that's-
will have to be done at a council.
Okay, I just wanted to know if it's correct or not.
Quick question.
You better hurry up, because I'm gonna.
So,
it's gonna be
you
a-
said that there's 3 officers on disability that are worth the amount of the police department?
So we can't talk about personnel or, private, explain that correctly, because I don't want to make a mistake on that.
We cannot elaborate any further, other than by saying what our public data budget is for our health insurance allotment for duty disability. And that health insurance obligation stands whether or not either option is selected. And that is $120,000 a year that we have obligated for health insurance premiums for duty disability. And that's all that the city can comment on.
Yeah, we're not allowed to, by state law and protection of personnel,
And then-
personal issue and personnel.
Did you guys do the vote and make the decision to put those individuals on disability?
I couldn't hear that.
Sorry.
Thank you, sir. That's not how the process works. There is not council involvement on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, in closing, Sheriff, appreciate your coming. I have voted for you every time you ran. I have much respect for you, but you know, things, decisions have to be made. So that's all greatly appreciated with your efforts here, and everyone that came, we greatly appreciate it. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? So moved. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. You're welcome to hear, councilors, do you have statements you'd like to make?
I do.
Okay, please.
My name is Doug Johnson. For those of you that are staying.
We can't hear.
My name is Doug Johnson. For those of you that are staying. This has been a really challenging thing, and all of you that are here, I greatly appreciate you. Those that have served, I appreciate you as well. The names that I was writing down just as I sat here, Bruce Matthew was the first law enforcement officer I ever saw. My family lived off of Oak, and he was our neighbor. It made me want to become a police officer. Dale Heaton, sitting right here. Thank you. I think my wife would be surprised I haven't been able to have emotions for it since 2012. I am one of those people with PTSD. I don't talk about it, but I do have it. Ray Arnold, Darren Jumpman, and Austin Berg, thank you. Those are some names that just came to mind. They are pillars of law enforcement. They are a big reason why I got into this, and you mean a lot to the community. I looked back at our city council police department list. In 2017, there isn't one name on there that's still here. This police department is great. I'm not stating that. I'm stating that people move on. A lot of the people in Carleton County have served on the Moose Lake Police Department. The lieutenant that's sitting there right now was a Moose Lake officer. You have investigators. You have training officers. You have a lot of people that have served, and they have gone on to serve you in just a different capacity. According to KSTP, and this is just food for thought, I mean, it's not going to change anything, but it's the culture that we live in. From 2018 to 2022, municipal statewide went from 321 police departments to 308. Number of licensed officers decreased by 293. We have lost a lot of people in the profession. I also reached out just because I needed to look at what are all the figures, what does this look like, what does this look like for the community, because they're going to come here and ask questions. I contacted Goodhue because Goodhue is all over the news. I talked to Ellen, actually, I should say with Goodhue, I was forced to look at their YouTube video. I watched their special city council meeting on August 14th, 2023, where every single law enforcement officer handed in their resignation at that meeting, and they were forced to contract with the county. It wasn't their decision. They're a small city. The League of Minnesota Cities at that time, at that meeting, said This is not the first department, it will not be the last. I've contacted Clara City. They have 2.5 positions, they contracted with the county. They have deputies that live near or in the community. The thing that was stated to me by them was that they appreciate the sheriff's office because of the expertise that they bring. They have more people, and that it certainly isn't a shot at the officers here or any negative comment. It's just more investigators, more people with specialty, because you're not going to have that as much of a small department. Morris City, I talked to Becca, the city manager. She said they were impressed with how the sheriff's office is staffed, and that they could not keep people. That is evident by what I just stated. Ortonville, I spoke to Shar, who works at the city. She said this happened 1 year ago, so it's very near what happened. They lost all their staff except for the chief. She said it's going well. The citizens are very happy and 0 complaints. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just telling you what has happened in the state of Minnesota since 2018. They've doubled the policing efforts because, again, more staffing. And that's what we have been coming up with, more staffing. And I found it was very interesting that nothing against you, Mayor Shaw, it was the mayor, the only person that has complained about it is the mayor because he voted against it. And I'm not stating that that has anything to do with Mayor Shaw. I just thought that was pretty interesting. So we're not in a fun situation, and neither are you. And I just think it says a lot about the community, the people of Moose Lake, that you took time out of your day and you care enough about the people that live here to come here and talk. And I want to thank you for that. And ultimately, we do have to make a decision on your safety. If we do look at this, and again, I'm really looking at what's been proposed, a 3-person department. If we look at what does that look like for you as a citizen, if we're talking about a day shift being split 12 hours and 12 hours, what does 173 days look like? Because that's the difference between the 2 proposals. So if that person worked every single day, and it was a day shift, and you went to the Moose Lake Police Department and you knocked on the Moose Lake Police Department door and you said, I need an officer underneath the police budget, you would knock on that door from January 1st to June 22nd and no one would answer it. That is what the budget has been proposed. That's what 173 shifts look like. Again, I'm just trying to lay out what it looks like. That's it. The 2 budgets are very similar in other ways. The night shifts are comparable, but the day shift, 3 people, no matter how you slice it, 3 people is 3 people. So I just wanted to share that with you. The levy increase would be 14% if we just use the levy increase for an example. And I know that it was brought up, well, what about 100% staffing? That would look like, I believe, it was rough math, over a 20% levy increase for the citizens of Moose Lake. And again, the mayor has stated that 30% of the population pays 100% of the property tax. So my final statement is God bless all of you that have donned the badge. I greatly respect you, and this has not been easy for any one of us. So thank you.
Greg, any statement?
I grew up here, not necessarily in the village. I grew up just on the edge. I remember Frank Zinkowski was our police chief, or whatever you want to call him, and if you were doing something wrong, the gentleman said it was time to go home. And needless to say, you didn't argue with him, because if you did, you had more problems. If he called or took you home. So, but this is hard. I never planned my life to come back here to start with, and I never planned I'd be sitting up here. And I'm very glad that everybody came. put their 2 cents in, because it definitely helps on which way a person can go, because I really didn't want to try and make this decision without somebody else's input into it. And it's gonna be a hard choice to make, and I thank you all. Thank you.
And I should make a statement. We have one counselor missing, Chris Huso. She had a spinal operation, and she just got out of the hospital yesterday, so she couldn't be here. Just so that you know why Chris is missing. She definitely wanted to be here, but with that kind of extensive surgery, I'm sure you all can understand that it's impossible for her to be here tonight. Just a statement about her. So I'll move on to the council discussion. Questions and/or motion?
I would just make the statement that I know Officer Walsh has talked about kicking the can down the road, and others have wanted an answer to this, a decision. And we have never, since I've been on since 2014, we have never made a decision that is, to me, this important without having full council here. We have 4 council members here. I don't think it's kicking the can down the road to say that we should have a decision at our next regular city council meeting. We need to have everybody there because the citizens deserve that, and that's just my belief. To have everyone, their input, their vote.
Understand. If there is no motion tonight, you would have to make a motion to delay it to the next city council meeting. So is there any motion by any other councilor or by yourself?
Can you table it?
Say that again?
Can you table it?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Well, I'd like to have some time to dwell on what these people have said too. So I would make the motion to table it until the next city council meeting in February.
The second, it's the second Wednesday of February at 4 o'clock right here. Okay, you have a motion. Do I have a second? Greg did. Any further questions or discussion?
I would just reiterate, I don't think it's kicking the can down the road. I think people brought up a lot of valid points. There were some things that I haven't thought about, and I think all of us have dealt through so many financial things for so long, and we talked about a police district, and that was, the townships didn't necessarily want that at the time. Maybe there's some other options that are available, but I think it would be best for everybody if we all took another look at what's been brought up by the citizens of Moose Lake. This is their city, and they deserve to have us look at that information.
You know, thanks for bringing that up, Doug. So before I ask the vote, I'm gonna make a statement. Being the mayor, I'm in my 20th year with Moose Lake, and 3 times we did approach the township about a police district. The first time was with Mr. Talbot back in 2005 or 6, and the township was not interested. Another time happened with Tim Peterson, probably about 5-6 years ago, and we contacted the township and no interest. The next time with Darren, the chief, just was it 2 years ago? We took a different approach. Instead of contacting the township officers, and I have no disrespect, I respect them all. They stepped forward like all of you had to run their township. We decided to do it at a township meeting and make sure the word got out so that the citizens of the township had more of an input. And there was a big crowd here. Kelly came and tried to present that again, to go for a district to help with the funding of the police department and forming a district with them. The fire district works fantastic. We have a great fire district with the township and looking at another township to maybe move in, to add into that. So the fire district was a great example how it can work, and it works very well. And so we gave that a shot at a township, and we did not get the results that we hoped for. They did not want to do a district at that time either. So that's where we're at with it, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a bit of information for the community also, that we have not been sitting idle through the years with this problem. We have tried numerous times to solve funding problems, not only with the district, but I'm aware of 3 times we tried to do a friendly annexation with the township, and all of those failed. So probably time for a new mayor, I think. I had to get that in there. I'm gonna do a vote, and then I'll ask you. So we have a motion, and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Chief, please come up for a minute.
Just wanted to introduce myself really quick. Councilor Gentleman talked about new officers. I'm one of them. I started part-time here in 2020. I've worked in the area. I started at the jail, actually, in 2001. I worked 15 years at Fond du Lac, came here and fell in love with the place. Absolutely, positively fell in love with Moose Lake. I left a supervisory position at Fond du Lac, took a pay cut to come here, and now I'm currently your interim chief. Just want everybody to know, regardless of the decision, I can't even imagine, nor would I want to have to be the one to make it, the policing will continue as best as we can give it to you. Regardless of it's yes, no, or otherwise, we're gonna be here as long as we can possibly be here, and you're gonna get the best police services we can possibly give you. So, just wanted to put that out there, so everybody knows, we'll be here if you need us. Thank you.
With that, I'm gonna ask for a motion to close. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I get to do this. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good seeing you again. See you too. Yeah.